Take Facebook. Now, why is Facebook so valuable? Why does it have billions and billions of capitalization in the New York Stock Exchange? Well, the reason is because you are providing free labor for it. I'm not saying we are going back to feudalism. This is not the point about the rise of technofeudalism. We've moved to a stage beyond capitalism, after capitalism, which has elements of feudalism in it, but only at the abstract level, at the conceptual level. What are these two elements? Well, remember I was saying that under feudalism, the source of power was ownership of land. Now, it is no longer ownership of land. Under capitalism, it was ownership of machinery. Today, it's still ownership of machinery. But it's this new form of mutant machinery, which is not a produced means of production, but it is a produced means of behavioral modification. So, Bezos owns a machine that can modify my behavior, and owning that machine allows him to collect a rent from the capitalist that has produced, the traditional capitalist who has produced the electric bike. And why should you care about that? Well, you should care about that for at least 3 reasons. I could add another 10, but I don't have the time. Firstly, let's say you are a neo-Luddite. You say, you know what, technofeudalism is not my business because I don't have one of these phones. I have an old Nokia. It's not even connected to the internet. You know, I pay with cash. I refuse to pay with cards. You know, go away with you and your cloud capital. All of you, not just me. Well, I'm afraid I have bad news from you. You cannot shield yourself from this. Why? Because if I'm right in my, if you want, statistical econometric analysis, that as we speak today, this is why I was telling you right at the beginning, that this is not a talk about what will happen, but it's a talk about what has happened. If I'm right in my estimation that around 35% of GDP, 35% of GDP in the West, but also increasingly in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, right? Certainly in China, 30 to 35% of GDP is siphoned off by the Jeff Bezoses of the world in the form of this rent, which I call cloud rent, right? The rent that they charge sellers of electric bicycles, that we contribute to them because you know what? Take Facebook. Now, why is Facebook so valuable? Why does it have billions and billions of capitalization in the New York Stock Exchange? Well, the reason is because you are providing free labor for it. The code itself is nothing. You know, we could go to the nearest university here in Wales or, you know, Scotland or England or wherever, and we could get coders, computing scientists, that can actually code something better than Facebook. What is the capital of Facebook? It's the fact that there are millions of people on Facebook. Every time you upload something on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and so on, you are contributing to the cloud capital of that fiefdom. And, you know, for instance, you know, I am on Twitter still, even though Elon Musk has taken it and turned it into a sewer and called it X. Now, I can't get out of Twitter because I have 1.2 million followers. If I go to Blue Sky, which I have been, you know, a tiny minority of people, just very, very few people will ever listen to what I have to say. So I'm stuck in that fiefdom, like a cloud surf belonging to Elon Musk. And every time I tweet something, I increase the cloud capital of Elon Musk. Similarly with Amazon, similarly with all of those platforms. So when 30 to 35% of the money we spend and the free labor we provide accumulates in the bank account of 7 companies in the world, the magnificent 7, so to speak, do you know what happens? That money is taken out of the circular flow of income. Because let me give you a fascinating statistic, which is the main reason I sat down and I wrote this book, when I discovered this number that I'm going to share with you now. If you take any of the traditional, let's call them terrestrial capitalist companies, like, you know, British Aerospace, or Alstom, or Ford, right? General Electric, the traditional terrestrial capitalist firms. On average, 85% of their revenue goes to salaries, to the salaries of the members of the board, all the way down to the poorest worker with the lowest wage working for them. 85%. Do you know what percentage of its revenues Google pays to its workers? It's a radical number, 1%. Facebook, 1%. And moreover, let me tell you also something else. Do you know that 9 out of the $10 they have invested in their cloud capital comes from our central banks? Because in 2008, Wall Street and the City of London went pear-shaped, as did the banks of Paris and Frankfurt and so on. And our great and good leaders printed $35 trillion. That is 35,000 billion. 35,000 billion to give to the financiers. And the financiers, if you give them money, right, their greatest nightmare is that they won't be able to lend it. So they picked up the phone, they called the managing directors and the CEOs and the CFOs of various conglomerates, and they said, we have free money, take it. Yeah? Because the bankers got it at negative interest rates. Effectively, the central banks were paying them to take it. So even if they lent it at zero interest rate, they were making money. You understand that, right? This was the crime against humanity. That was the bailouts of the financial sector after 2008. So all the CEOs took the money, because who would say no to free money? Except that those very CEOs then looked outside and saw you folks, me, all of us. And what they recognized was impecunious people because of austerity, because the largesse, the socialism for the bankers went hand in hand with austerity for everybody else. They realized, these people won't be able to invest in expensive top-of-the-line products, so we're not going to invest. They took the money from the central banks via the commercial banks, and you know what they did? They bought their own shares. Because if you buy your own shares, the share price goes up. Okay, if you're the CEO of a company, your bonus is linked to the share price. So that's what you do. But that's not investment. It doesn't create new jobs. It doesn't enhance the incomes of anyone. The only capitalists who invested in machinery were the owners of cloud capital, the Magnificent Seven. So effectively, we paid them to buy the machinery or to create the machinery, the cloud capital, which then encased us inside these cloud fiefs where we produce free labor for them, happily and voluntarily. The worst kind of slavery is one you choose to have, so that they could siphon off 35% of global GDP. And you know, when you are not paying this in salaries, do you know what you do with this? You take it to the Cayman Islands. So this money comes out of the circular flow of income. And you know, the result is bullshit jobs. Because aggregate demand comes down. Other capitalists, traditional capitalists, terrestrial capitalists do not invest because demand is down. The Bank of England has to increase money supply to keep a semblance of economic activity. That creates inflation, that increases the cost of living. So even if you have a Nokia phone and you don't have one of those phones, you are still subject to technofeudalism. Let me say that unless we understand that this is no longer capitalism, that this is something much closer to what I call technofeudalism, with these cloud fiefs, which look like markets but are not like markets, expanding to more and more sectors of our social economy, unless we understand that, then we can't understand what's happening in the world around us. And let me give you some examples, very concrete examples. I'll give you 3. Okay, 1. Why is Volkswagen finished? Why is the German car-making industry gone? There is nothing that they can do to survive. One reason is, of course, because they didn't invest anything in the last 15 years. But it's not the main reason. The main reason is, if you compare, let's take an electric Volkswagen. There are some. Not as advanced as the Teslas or the BYDs, the Chinese ones, but there are. Let's say they improve them. They are still kaput. They are still incapable of competing with the American Tesla, Elon Musk's, or the Chinese BYD. Why? Because they're not connected to cloud capital. Did you know that if you own a Tesla and Elon Musk doesn't like you, He can press a button and your Tesla doesn't work. Did you know that? No, this is a fact. And they use this. I mean, if you buy a second-hand Tesla and you don't service it with Tesla, they switch it off. So it never starts. You can plug it in, charge it, doesn't start. Now, something else you don't know. 25% of the revenue of Tesla doesn't come from selling cars or selling spare parts for the cars. You know where it comes from? It comes from knowing what music you are listening to, where you are visiting your friend Mary, what kind of mood were you when you left Mary's house, what kind of conversation were you having with someone as you were going up to the supermarket or driving to the supermarket, what you purchased at the supermarket. By combining all these bits of information about your mood, your speech, because it hears everything you do in the Tesla, right? The Tesla is like an iPad on wheels. It knows everything about you. Through selling this data to Amazon, Tesla makes more money than it makes from spare parts. Volkswagen doesn't have that. Why? Because Germany has no cloud capital. There are only 2 agglomerations of cloud capital in the world. Silicon Valley and China. Near Shenzhen, to be precise. Come to the second question. Why did Elon Musk purchase Twitter? Do you remember when he purchased Twitter for $44 billion? Most of the newspapers were saying, oh, what a silly man, this is a vanity project, he's only doing it because he's a spoiled, overgrown child that he just wants to make a lot of noise through Twitter. This is all true. But it is fundamentally false in its essence, because the essence is Elon Musk had every reason to purchase Twitter because he's a Johnny-come-lately to cloud capital. Before that, he was making cars, he was making rockets. This is old-fashioned terrestrial stuff, even though it goes to space. It wasn't cloud capital. He had nothing like what Zuckerberg had, like Google had, like Microsoft had, like Uber, Airbnb, this interface through cloud capital with us. And Twitter was the cheapest interface, and he is turning it, every day that passes, into an everything app, his own portal, his own Alexa, connecting it to his satellites, to his spaceships, and of course to his cars. And finally, why does this hypothesis help us understand the world we live in? What is the greatest danger for the world today? This is a rhetorical question, I'll answer it. A potential clash between the United States and China over Taiwan, over some pretext, the South China Sea, something. Now, recall that that was not in the air until 2017, after Donald Trump's election. Donald Trump comes in, and he starts the new Cold War against China. You remember that? Against Huawei, and aluminium tariffs, and so on. I remember asking people in the United States, in government, in positions of power, people who supposedly knew, why is this happening? And they would say, oh, it's Taiwan. I said, come on, give me another one. China's position on Taiwan was always clear. Taiwan belongs to China. One China policy. It was the agreement between Nixon and Mao Zedong when they got together when Nixon went to China, famously. Right? It is the official policy of the United Kingdom, of the United States. One China. Whatever else they may say on the BBC and ITV and so on, this is the official policy. They haven't changed. They have not recognized Taiwan as independent. So that nothing has changed since 1971. So give me a proper reason as to why, from being absolute bosom buddies, the West and China turned against one another, or the United States and China. The second thing, they are building up their navy, and they are being very uppity, and they are threatening the national security of the United States. I said, I'll believe this when I see Chinese vessels patrolling outside Los Angeles. When I see that, when I see a Chinese base, military base being built in Tijuana, next to San Diego, I'll believe that. All I see now is American bases surrounding, around the Chinese coast. Nothing has changed since 1945. Look, I'll spill the beans regarding my own hypothesis. Washington, D.C., whether it is Trump or Biden, because remember, Biden comes in, and we all thought that Biden was the anti-Trump, who would reverse everything that Trump had done. Well, he didn't reverse the new Cold War. He turbocharged it. He made it far more acute and intense by banning the export of any kind of microchip to China. It's like telling Beijing, we are not going to allow you to become a technologically advanced economy. This is like the declaration of economic warfare against Beijing. That was Biden, it wasn't Trump. And now Trump is coming and continuing. This is a continuation of that. My explanation is really very simple, ladies and gentlemen, and this is how I finish. American hegemony rests on only one thing: the monopoly of international payment system through the dollar network. Manufacturing-wise, it's less than half the size of China, the United States. It's got a huge trade deficit. It has a huge budget deficit. The only thing that allows them not to care about their trade deficit or their budget deficit in particular, right? They keep increasing their budget deficit there as if there is no limit, is because other people pay for it. And why other people pay for it? Because when, a Chinese business person or German exporter sells stuff to the United States pays with dollars. Those dollars then go back to New York and they fund the American government. This is the very weird recycling mechanism that has been unfolding since the 1970s. Washington, D.C. knows the moment they lose the monopoly of the international payment system of the dollar, they're finished, they're bankrupt. Have you noticed the rise of digital payment services? Who has the lead on that? It is the Chinese. Why is it the Chinese? In this country, there is no application that you can use by which to make free payments without being charged those awful charges, monopoly charges by Barclays, Lloyds, and so on and so forth. That doesn't exist. The free payments do not exist in the West. They exist in China because the Chinese Communist Party simply legislated that anybody who uses WeChat, a Chinese application that is linked to any bank account in China, is going to be free. And the Chinese central bank, imagine if the Bank of England allowed you to download the Bank of England wallet, digital wallet from Apple Store or from the Android store, and that allowed you to to take money onto that wallet, to have your employer pay your salary there, and for you to receive the overnight rate of the Bank of England, which is always twice that which Barclays gives you for your savings, and allowed you to make free payments. You take it immediately. This is what they have in China. So Washington worries that, especially after the Ukraine war and the confiscation of the, $350 billion of the Russian central bank, a lot of people, Saudi Arabians, Emiratis, Indonesian capitalists, are shifting some of their dough from the dollar system to the one denominated digital payment system, which is free. And if that shift continues, they will lose the monopoly power that they have over the world's money. And that is a clear and present danger to American hegemony. So unless we understand the way that cloud capital has taken over, creating something that I call technofeudalism, we really can't understand the world we live in. And if we don't understand the world we live in, we can't fight for a better one.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.